What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are here with our first initial reactions video for the 2024 NFL season. A Lions win over the LA Rams. If you're new to these videos, basically this is my first video after my first rewatch of the Lions' last game. So I go through, take notes from each play. It's not an all-22 look. We don't have that yet. A lot of things that I missed here because it's not the all-22 version, but I get some key notes and then also some key plays, and we'll walk through some of those in today's video. I have to do this. I just have to. My score prediction was the best score prediction I've ever had on this channel. Unless I'm completely forgetting something, I've never been right on a Lions score prediction ever. And we really started doing these like deep breakdown preview videos, I feel like 2 years ago, but at very least all last season. And I never got a score prediction right. And this game, while I didn't get it right, I had the Lions winning 27-20, and they won 26-20 because they don't kick an extra point in overtime. I'm going to take the moral victory here, okay? I am, because the Lions won as well. If this was a loss, I wouldn't take it. I'm going to take a moral victory that this was my most accurate prediction video of all time. This is a heck of a way to start off the 2024 season. Maybe that's a little bit of an inspiration of like, ooh, that video is really long. I don't know if I want to watch that. You should watch it, because there's a chance that the score prediction is only 1 point off. And then you're like, hey, man, I'm glad I watched that video. Boom. Because the score was similar. That's probably not the reason to watch the video. The reason to watch the video is that when we talk about things during the live stream or during the game, you won't be surprised. Like, oh, I didn't expect that guy to do that. Or why is there not so many sacks in this game? And I was like, I don't think there's going to be that many sacks. And y'all thought I was crazy. But I was like, look, man, that's how the offense is. It's offensively, all I want is more consistency in the run game throughout. It doesn't have to be elite all the way. It doesn't have to be 200 yards. Just be more consistent. Let's try to keep positives into the fourth quarter. That would be huge if the Lions can continue to find results like that. And then hopefully a negative, right? Hopefully an interception. Maybe you get a tip pass. Maybe he wasn't expecting it, got picked it off. Maybe you got a strip sack fumble. Reach for the ball when you get to Stafford. Love the Lions' ability to kick the field goal. So I got Jake Bates potentially making 2 of them in this game. And that is a Detroit Lions 27-20 win over the LA Rams. It's not that we don't have defensive line personnel. It's not like we're not going to dominate up front. They get the ball out too fast. They're too efficient offensively. They don't take a lot of sacks. So those kind of things. But with all that being said, let's waste no more time, man. Let's dive right into this game and kind of work our way through it. Let's start off on the defensive side of the ball first, because the Lions held the LA Rams to 3 points in the first half. A little bit difficult without the all-22, but last year I thought Aaron Glenn got in his bag for that LA Rams game to just try to find ways to find answers against that LA Rams offense. Try to find a way to throw them off a little bit in that game. Just make them a little bit less efficient offensively, because they're going to get the ball out faster than anybody else. But how can we just get wins? How can we get a first down play that's a negative? And I thought this game, in comparison to last year, was hands down way better in that category. The Lions did an excellent job. There were multiple early down stops that they had in this game. They really did a nice job of limiting consistent big plays. 3 touchdowns, but the LA Rams didn't go anywhere because defensively we gave up big play touchdowns right on the opposite side of things. They didn't do that in this game. Now, they gave up some touchdowns, but they made the LA Rams work for each touchdown. Absolutely love that. And even the times they got into the red zone, there were some flags that helped get them down there. I love what the Lions did, man. They absolutely made them work. They made them work for everything in this game. And yet, they had their little wrinkles in there. They had the creativity, and they had the ways to try to create negatives. And they did. They had sacks. They had an interception in the end zone. And they brought out some things this year that I didn't see last year. They brought some things back. It was, to me, a really good performance from Aaron Glenn in the first game of the season. But it was also a lot of hype as well because of the new personnel coming to the Lions, and a lot of those guys that were on the field, you really felt their impact. Carlton Davis, Taron Arnold was, of course, just incredibly involved. Amik Robertson, he didn't field as much because he really didn't get targeted, but he did really well. Marcus Davenport, like, it was nice to really feel the impact specifically of a lot of these big-name additions. Now we just need DJ Reader back in the mix. The first play here, we have the Lions going into what looks like a quarters look defensively, and again, some of these could be incorrect because I can't see the full screen. But we have Derek Barnes here, and really what stood out is this. So the Lions come in without Ife Melifonwu, so they're a little bit lighter at safety in this game. And for the Lions to, a lot of the time defensively, keep Derek Barnes on the field, go 3 linebackers, a little bit heavier personnel-wise, basically play base package defensively, versus an offense that consistently plays 11 personnel. Usually a team plays 11 personnel, they're going to have 3 receivers. A lot of times you're matching that with nickel coverage. For the Lions in this game, a lot of times they match that with base coverage, which put a lot of emphasis on our linebacker position. Alex Anzalone in particular, we saw how big time he was, but then a guy like Derek Barnes. And the Lions asked a lot of him to play that Sam linebacker role to rush the passer, to drop into coverage, to help us in a lot of different areas, maybe potentially man up. And I thought Derek Barnes in this game had a lot of things on his plate, and he performed well. Right from the jump, dropping into zone coverage, taking away the first read from Stafford, forcing him to go elsewhere, followed by an Ali McNeil pressure, which led to a negative 1-yard completion that Alex Anzalone absolutely just blew up on the play. So give credit to Derek Barnes, because even outside of just what he did in coverage, versatility-wise, also as a pass rusher, I thought Derek Barnes showed a lot of flashes. I'll have to go back through again to the All-22 to get a great sense. I did think he showed a lot of flashes of improvement as a pass rusher. That was one thing that stood out to me back at training camp, and I thought in this first game it was a really good start for Derek Barnes in terms of hand usage, showing ways to get after the quarterback. We know that he is a relentless player at tracking the football, but I did think he showed some real upside. And obviously this offensive line was battered. They were bruised, man. They were missing guys, but I still thought he showed some upside in terms of being able to get after the quarterback, utilizing his hands a little bit more. While this play is cut short, that I liked the Lions' adjustment this year was having Brian Branch at safety and seemingly really taking advantage of having Brian Branch at safety. Like, they knew that they had him there. They were going to play a lot of base personnel. So how can we take advantage of Brian Branch at safety? Post-snap movement. And that's not something that I noticed much of an impact the first last time we played the LA Rams. This game was incredibly impactful. And a lot of that, give credit to Brian Branch, because post-snap, his ability to step down, play man coverage, he can blitz, he'll play the run, he can step in the box and have run responsibilities. Like, because he can do all these things, the Lions were able to throw a lot on his plate. And one of those things that we saw early in the game where, you know, he almost jumped the first out route. Then the next one he gets the pass breakup, which actually Ali McNeil tipped that, helped him get the pass breakup there. And then, of course, he also had the dropped interception. But this first one, to roll down into cover 3 at the snap, right? Go to cover 3, go into that sky roll as the underneath zone defender into the flat there. At the snap, that post-snap movement, and then being able to take off and undercut an out route that seemingly should be there, right? You show a two-eye look, and you're thinking, okay, maybe cover 4, that's a spot where, hey, we can hit that out route, right? If he's going to drop out, that cornerback drops out, I can hit that out route. So now you see cornerback drop out because it's cover 3, but all of a sudden your safety races down into the flat, undercuts the route, and he's getting there so fast and in a hurry that one thing that, again, the Rams like and the Lions know that's a tendency is the quick passing game, pistol, quick out routes. All of a sudden use Brian Branch to kind of disrupt a little bit of that, but also disguising it by having him move post-snap. I thought that was one really cool advantage, and that's something the Lions are going to have in their back pocket all season long, is that ability to move Brian Branch into different situations just because of the flexibility that he brings. The defense staying on the defensive side of the ball, play that didn't go in our favor. Lions going into what looks like potentially a cloud coverage, which again is another thing that we talked about in the preview that I want to see the Lions do, because I expected them to want to blitz their cornerbacks. They'd want to slant rush up front. They'd want to bring somebody off the edge, and that's what they did again in this game. But the opportunity there was, hey, if you're going to show cover 3, bring the cornerback, play cloud coverage, ask a safety to basically take on that cornerback role, because again, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, the flexibility we've already seen to those guys, and then you can play either underneath, or in this case, you could just blitz the cornerback. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't really work out well here because Stafford gets the sense that Carlton Davis is blitzing, but that is something that did show up within this game, is blitzing the cornerbacks was useful. Another look that I didn't see last time we played this team defensively, here on a 2nd and 6, the Lions go into zero coverage. They did this a few times in this game, and I can't tell who Stafford was like, hey, my bad, I should have went there. I think he was probably talking to Cooper Kupp on the out route, working on Terrion Arnold, because he did separate and get himself open. But that being said, this pass is thrown, Kirby Joseph in coverage, it falls incomplete. And what stands out about this is simply just the fact that the Lions are going zero coverage on 2nd down. Again, that's not something that I noted at all last season, was the Lions in zero coverage. Bring everybody playing man in the back end. One, probably speaks to some of the faith that he has in the personnel that he strictly has in the back end, because again, you know they're going to get the ball out fast. You know you like your advantage on paper with defensive line versus their offensive line. So you really must have confidence to say, look, man, this is not just simple as we have this matchup, they have this matchup. We know their receivers are dangerous. We know they want to get the ball out fast, but we're still going to utilize cover 0 because we trust in the back end that we have the players to not be exposed just because we try something like this. Safety flexibility, again, came into play here because they were playing zero coverage, and you force an incomplete pass on a 2nd and 6 that sets up a 3rd down and 6. So again, that was just awesome to see the Lions kind of wrinkle that in and kind of show some of the trust that they had in the back end. Talk about new pieces, Marcus Davenport. Now, of course, as a pass rusher, a lot of things to like there. Didn't think he was great when they started chipping him with the back. That kind of seemed to throw him off a lot. lot. And on the interior, didn't feel like he was as dominant as you would have liked to have seen. I didn't love him there when he was with Minnesota. Whenever he would rush in the interior, they did that with him a lot. I didn't love it. But I really liked him, of course, on the offensive tackles, collapsing the pocket. That's what he does. That's who he is. And my goodness, that absolutely showed up in this game. Now, he actually did a little bit more outside of that, too. Utilized his hands, showed a little bit of dip, one around the edge. He did a little bit more than just winning through an offensive tackle. But then a play like this, some of the awareness, which actually set up the sack the very next play that Levi and he got together. Davenport having just enough awareness on this chip flat to just make Stafford work for it. Marcus Davenport is an absolute huge human being. So for him just to show the awareness here and kind of step in the passing lane, for Stafford to hesitate a little bit and then miss the pass, that was a win going into this one. With such an efficient offense, you want just incomplete passes. You want passes hitting the ground, right? And that's a great example of that, which sets up, again, the opportunity for them to then pin their ears back and get after the quarterback and then come up with the sack the very next play. And it was set up by just Marcus Davenport showing a little bit of awareness, forcing an incomplete pass in what seemed to be some quarters coverage. Big takeaway that I had in this game, and it was not perfect. Running the football is not perfect either, but it was that the Lions are still incredibly versatile rushing the football. They are incredibly versatile, and that's the problem that they're going to bring teams all season long, is that they can adjust, they can adapt, they can get in something that you're not defending well, and they can just lean in that all game long. The Lions have a lot of creativity within their offense because they have two different backs that can absolutely complement each other, and then you have an offensive line that can block and really do anything you want schematically. And early in this game, again, not always great. Here would be an outside zone look. They have the leading the way in Parker Hesse, who, is really the guy that blows his block here, and that leads to kind of only this being a 4-yard gain. But they work behind Penei Sewell, who was the guy that they were targeting when running the football. They're like, let's go behind that guy. When they scored their last touchdown, let's go behind Penei Sewell. They just let him lead the way, which is cool. He just got his big money, so it's cool to just like, hey, let's just lean on Penei Sewell, and he delivers as a run blocker. But as a holistic picture, and we'll talk about this more, it's the fact that the Lions, versatility-wise, were able to mix it up and show like, hey, we can lean into the athleticism that we have, but then we can also settle down and lean into the power that we have between guys like Kevin Zeitler and Penei Sewell working together. We can go double teams right off those two guys and just drive guys backwards. So the flexibility is going to be massive as we continue through this season. Staying with the run game, then we get a split zone look here with David Montgomery. And again, guy that we focused in coming into this game was the tight end position. Tight ends blocking in this game were going to be crucial. And here it was Sam Laporta with a really nice block. I see Jameson Williams willing to step in and block here. You end up picking up 7 yards. And it was clear the Lions definitely wanted to get outside of the tackle a lot in this game. They wanted to get outside of kind of these younger defensive ends that would get upfield, that were incredibly quick hitters to the edge to get outside the numbers, but they definitely wanted to get off tackle a lot, rushing the football in this game. And here would be an example with this outside zone of the tight end position and the receiver position both blocking in space, right? Talk about the offensive line. What about the other pieces? And I didn't think Laporta was great last year run blocking. This would have been a really good example for Sam Laporta. I thought it looked much better from initial watch this season. One thing that showed up for sure, especially in the passing game, was it seemed like there was not too much, but there was a little bit of, hey, this looks a little bit rusty, okay? Specifically, just kind of being on the same page, like receiver with the quarterback, the timing, things were a little rusty. Obviously, we had the stunt that was missed early in the game with Kevin Zeitler. We ended up giving up a sack immediately to start this game. Then those guys settled in, and I thought one-on-one matchup-wise, the offensive line were doing an excellent job. Like they really settled into the game. The problems they had was when they wouldn't pick up a stunt, and then we give up pressure. But I thought one-on-one, they did a really nice job, especially on the interior. On the outside, Decker had a few losses. Sewell had some losses. But on the interior, I thought they handled business for the most part in terms of one-on-one matchups. Frank Ragnow did a lot of good things in pass protection as well. Aside of just the offensive line blocking, it was also then in the passing game where we just saw some weird timing issues, it felt like. I thought Goff's eyes early in the game weren't great. I thought he had a kind of a tendency to almost like want to stare something down a little bit early in the game, and I think that just comes back to the timing within the progressions of this offense. And here, to me, was a really good example of that, where seemingly going into a cover 4 defensively, and we know these underneath defenders want to basically plaster routes, right? They're not going to change directions and pass these guys off extremely well. So you get that. You get St. Brown one-on-one on the linebacker, and seemingly there's just confusion here when I look at it. It's almost like Jared Goff's waiting for him to run a jerk route, which would be like he runs that hitch and then break off it inside. Meanwhile, St. Brown kind of settles down as if like, oh, I'm running this hitch and I'm getting the football. And then he realized, like, I'm actually not getting this football. I probably should move. And then he starts to move, and Goff throws it like he's moving, and then St. Brown kind of leaves, kind of lunges for it, can't get to it. That one to me me just felt like a miscommunication. Like Goff was waiting for him to take off. Like, okay, I'm going to stare this down because you're supposed to go by now. And he did not move. And then all of a sudden Goff just like, okay, I'm going to throw this football. And then St. Brown didn't really take off. It wasn't like a full effort because they just felt like they were off and not on the same page there. Lions found ways to make it work. That's one of the key standouts for me here is that Ben Johnson still found creativity. He still figured out what they wanted to do. And as the game rolled along, they had their own tweaks and wrinkles offensively that outside of what they came in wanting to do. And then they found ways to kind of just make it work. And I think it's super impressive that St. Brown didn't have a big game, and yet you still did what you did offensively. Amon-Ra St. Brown seemingly had a lot of Kobe Durant, and it seemed like Kobe Durant just did a good job one-on-one. Fake end around, and this was one of the prettiest play designs, I think, of the game. Speaking of Ben Johnson, this thing was awesome watching it back because defensively they're going to go into what looks like some cover one. It looks like they're manned up here defensively. Play like this and how much polish actually went into a play like this. You know, you get man coverage defensively. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown moving pre-snap. You have the pulling offensive lineman to really help sell the fake. Jared Goff gets an excellent ball fake on the play action setup, and then he's going to reverse flip himself back around, find Sam Laporta on the drag route, but Sam Laporta sells it because Sam Laporta chips down the line of scrimmage and then drags, and when he does that, everybody's manned up, so all of a sudden they have to follow Amon-Ra St. Brown. The running back takes off the opposite way, so the inside linebacker takes it, and now you have a guy like Sam Laporta who's chipping down. You sell the run fake to tie it along with it. Now that linebacker is completely focused on the run play. One thing we talked about in this game coming into it was eye candy. Lions did multiple examples of taking advantage of, let's use eye candy. These linebackers will hesitate. They will pause, right? They are really good in a straight line. They can get downhill, can deal with blocks, but they can pause and hesitate and just not be completely sure of themselves when you put them in positions like that, when you have all that pre-snap kind of eye candy. And to me, this was a great example of it. There's a lot of different ways they did it, but just like this, to utilize that chip drag, flip it around, and all of a sudden Sam Laporta's wide open because the run fake was incredible. The pulling offensive lineman, Jared Goff's ball fake, and Sam Laporta's wide open to help set us up for a nice gain. Deep inside the ball, like we talked about, Brian Branch coming up with the pass breakup, and again, going into cover three, driving on the football, this one to Cooper Kupp. Ali McNeil also on this play, again, tipped the pass. And simply put, like the personnel the Lions having the back end. And I'll tell you what, man, my immediate takeaway, don't want to overreact to one game, but immediate takeaway was Carlton Davis looked like a number one corner. Like the idea of a number one corner, what is that? Carlton Davis, to me, looked like a number one corner on the field for the Lions in the game. That doesn't mean he was perfect, right? Obviously, we get the touchdown, kind of tripped, slipped down, couldn't get out there. But Carlton Davis looked like what I would think of when I think of a number one cornerback, right? He's got some limitations, but he's really good at what he's good at. Lions had a lot of press man coverage in this game. It wasn't just man, but instead a lot of press man coverage, a lot of getting physical. Carlton Davis was very impactful in the run game as well, and his length and ball skills, all of those things showed up in this game. He dealt with different matchups from different alignments, and again, it wasn't perfect, right? You had the Nakua one, you had the Kupp one early on the slant, but a play like this on 4th down and 4, they go one-on-one to Cooper Kupp. He runs this curl route, and you have a guy like Carlton Davis who utilizes that length to just kind of disrupt this pass. It definitely could have been caught, but disrupted with his length, pass falls incomplete. And to me, overall as a whole, I thought Carlton definitely looked like the most consistent corner in this game outside of Amik Robertson, just because he wasn't targeted as much, but also he looked like your number one cornerback. That was awesome to see that guy that you invested in, that you know has put that out there on the field, immediately brought it to Detroit, and clearly he seemed very comfortable in what the Lions were wanting to do schematically, and his ball skills were one of the biggest things. Just getting his hands on the football multiple times, being so impactful at the catch point. We haven't had a guy like that. With that kind of length, statistically, the one thing the Lions have been missing in the back end when you look at the numbers are not allowing a low completion percentage. They've done that. They've come up with takeaways. They've given up high yards per game, right? But that's something that Aaron Glenn's always kind of had with the New Orleans Saints even as well. But it's the fact making plays on the football, passes defended. That's always been a pretty low number for the Lions versus where it probably should be. And now at the cornerback position, they have personnel to do that, and immediately it showed up in week 1. So that was one of the coolest things. All right, flipping back to the offensive side of the ball, we get a Jameson Williams big play. And coming into this game, we did our players to watch. Jameson Williams was the top player to watch for me on offense because I thought there was a chance that this could be, hey, Jameson Williams, it's, you know, this is when you grow up for the Lions, right? This is your opportunity to step in. We're going to need you. There's going to be times we say, hey, you're the guy one-on-one. You go win. The ball's going there regardless, so go win on the play. And Jameson Williams absolutely delivered. Doesn't mean he was perfect, but he absolutely delivered, right? You had a little drag route that he dropped, but it wouldn't have been a first down anyways, but it was broken up at the catch point. But outside of that, James Williams delivered. And the first one we got to start on, obviously we have a skill set here that we can utilize. I like this route because I saw a lot of discipline in this route. Throughout the top of the route, there wasn't a complete sell. He didn't completely dial down to make this thing happen. He's also shown a lot, playing through some physicality, but he's really done a good job with just efficiency and his footwork and the way that he's rolling through breaks just like this. And it's a really smart route because it plays into his strengths. It's not like like the Lions were sitting there asking Jameson Williams to run 3 comeback routes and be like, how's that going to work? That's not what he is. But routes like this, that is what Jameson is. And again, back in the training camp, what do we see? A lot of him in the slot, very effective there.
So as I'm editing this, the All-22 came out, and I was like, I'm going to throw this clip in because I love it. As you can see, I had LA Rams a lot more in cover 3 in this game, especially their cover 3 match, which definitely gave us a problem last year. It really slowed down our offense. But this was one of the good reads that we had, a big play, of course, down by 3. And you can see Goff no look Sam Laporta over the middle of the field, holding the underneath linebacker and the safety on the play. Sam Laporta breaks this off at really good depth to pick up a big chunk here. This is a beautiful play. You can see a lot more of that 3 match just like last season, as we talked about in the preview.
You see a lot of him in the slot, very effective there, and this was a great example. Lions utilize the short motion. They get the switch that they want. They get him on Quentin Lake, and immediately as you get him on Lake, a guy that ran a 4.59 40, you're like, we have the speed advantage. He runs the route really well. It's crisp. They utilize a good play action, and then all of a sudden he's wide open, and as soon as he gets the football, it's run after catch, and that's the area that we were projecting if Jamo's going to have that breakout year. That's what he can tap into that we really haven't had with that receiver that's not Amon-Ra St. Brown, is the guy that does big things after the catch. He has the skill set to do that guys like Josh and Chark didn't really have. Also, some of the route tree could impact that too. But he has that, and that's why they give him the ball in the run game. Take plays and turn them into home runs just like that, especially if he's in a catch-and-run situation. And I love the way that Ben Johnson seemingly utilized him in this game. When he got the football, they were routes that were Jameson Williams routes. They fit his skill set. We're going to need him to expand, but these were routes that definitely fit his skill set, getting him on the run, getting him crossing the field, right? And utilizing the other guys to spot up, utilizing the other guys to kind of sit down his zone, letting him just work and run and catch and run everything. That was the coolest part for Jameson Williams, and man, he absolutely was everything that you would have hoped for going into this game. He lived up to it for sure. We've seen the Lions do something like this before, but again, eye candy, right? You have Brock Wright, who is showing like, okay, I'm going left, and all of a sudden he plants. Linebackers can't see that, so you basically add an extra blocker that you weren't expecting. No, he's going to stick, and then he's going to flip himself around and come back around the other way, so now you get an extra blocker. It's just kind of one of the little wrinkles to a play like this. You got Taylor Decker out there blocking. You got Khalif Raymond out there blocking. And again, it's back to the eye candy, just in a different way that the Lions utilize to now get Jameson Williams again out and running in space. And the run blocking wasn't always perfect. Credit to the defensive line. They did a good job. I thought Brown was going to be a big challenge in this game, and I think that he was. Kobe Turner was also a challenge at the point of attack. It's some nice jobs creating penetration, spilling some of our runs. But I did like how we did a little bit better on the ends today. And again, I thought we did a nice job pin pulls. We got outside of the tackle box, right? Wasn't working in right directly to like Byron Young and things like that. It was almost like, let's take Jared Verse, let's take him out of the play. Let's not run at them. Let's take them out of the play. Let's pin pull. Let's get around them. So I like that schematically. But it wasn't always perfect on the interior either, outside zones. However, one thing that you see with Jahmyr Gibbs, and to me, I love it because it's expanding on what we just think of when we think of Jahmyr Gibbs. The carries that this guy got inside the 5 is crazy. You think of Jahmyr, everybody thinks of speed. We think of maybe the pass catching ability, but you don't think about these plays, right? You don't think about the dirty work. And the fact that he's adding that onto his plate makes him so dangerous because there's not really spots that you have to take him off the field. And then it's about pass protection. And in a spot like this was one of the best runs, right? There was one from Monty earlier that I didn't show, which was a 3rd down and short, which ended up leading to a field goal, and it was absolutely blown up outside zone, very similar, and he kind of just turned his back and fell his way forward for a 1st down. It was so clutch, and we led to a field goal with that drive. But then a blown block off the backside from Graham Glasgow, right? We're trying to reach block here, and that spills him backwards. But then you just see the stop and start. It was super decisive, which I loved. So Jahmyr Gibbs feels that. He races his way to the sideline, hits on the brakes, and then sprints his way back upfield, right? Super decisive, really efficient with the footwork. Now you are all over pursuing because I can race out there. Then he just uses incredible athleticism in his own way to find a crease, get the ugly yard. And that was so cool from Jahmyr Gibbs to see him do the ugly work like that, do the dirty work for the Lions, and find a way to make it happen outside of all the kind of exciting things that we usually talk about, all the flashy things, doing the dirty work and getting the job done. Defensive line, as we talked about, this was the matchup in the game that was going to be the most dominant, regardless of the injuries coming into the game or even once the game got going, the injuries that popped up. This was just going to be the matchup that the Lions were supposed to dominate, especially pass rushing. And they absolutely did that. I thought all the guys showed some things. The Levi looked really healthy in this game. He showed some real athleticism. I thought he showed big-time upside as a pass rusher, inside and outside. A little bit less as a run defender. I thought there was much more inconsistent there, getting outside on zone plays, at the point of attack on double teams, a little bit less consistent there. Aleem McNeil was all over the place as a pass rusher in the interior. He just has a nose for the football. And then Aiden Hutchinson was just an animal in this game as a pass pass rusher. I mean, a play like this, the agility on a play like this is just freaky from Aiden Hutchinson. The sidestep, we know that he has these abilities, but man, the way that he was tying and just stringing things together was just disgusting, working through blocks, at times handling the chip and still working off of it. You know, it wasn't always perfect, but at times handling that well. And then also I thought was cool was the way that he got going as a run defender. We'll show a play for that in a little bit here. But the way he got going as a run defender off the backside, the way that he was working against the tight ends a lot in this game, not every time, but a lot in this game, he played just an incredible game, start to finish for Aiden Hutchinson. But here you have like 47 seconds left. The Lions go into what looks like some two-man coverage. You have this drag pattern. This was kind of where it was forced to go. Number one, because wherever Stafford would look first, the Lions were going to press, and they handled the press early. So it was like, okay, the first route's not there. A lot of times that was like a Meek Robertson, or sometimes it would be Terrion Arnold. So he didn't go there immediately. And then he would come back to the drag, and the pressure would force the ball out. So the ball comes out, and then we would shut down these plays and limit these underneath. Now, unfortunately, here we had a roughing call, which was, you know what, I'm not even going to go into that. You guys, it's trash. Okay, it's trash. The NFL, these calls are trash. Back of the end zone, I'm looking at the personnel here, and obviously we ended up having the interception, which was nice. And again, Aaron Glenn, I said he was getting into his bag last game. In this game, he was as well, right? The creativity in terms of as soon as they got in the red zone, who was coming on a blitz? Who was dropping into coverage, right? Two-man coverage. And he would make one thing look like one thing, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, we showed you this, now we're going to show you it again, and now it's completely different. And it put a lot of stress on the communication. For the most part, we did really well. We had a couple breakdowns, but for the most part, we communicated well, and guys were very versatile in the different roles, which I think Glenn is just loving because he's like, I want to play man, and you guys can do it. You guys can all do it, so we can just move guys around. But he was also really creative, especially once they got in the red zone. Again, they were great in the red zone. They gave the one touchdown. They were great outside of that, especially in coverage in the red zone. But a play like this, simply put, just Carlton Davis one-on-one at the catch point. Love the contest, love the length. And then also, again, Marcus Davenport on this play creates some pressure, which is beautiful as well, because you know how high I am on Marcus Davenport, thinking that he'll get the extension after the season because he'll play himself into an extension.
And I'll play like this, I was super happy with the spacing to see a lot of it in man coverage, the way the Lions handled it between linebacker and Terrion to see it on the top of the screen. But also keep in mind Brian Branch, when he flies down here in run support, how he's on top of this. We get the big play later. That's what you get when you take those types of pursuit angles, which is right angle. It just so happens that we got burnt because of that. But again, the pressure and then looking for Carlton Davis first. Carlton Davis seemingly must have done pretty well in coverage here because he got off of that, but then Hutchinson forces you to go immediately to number two.
That they were playing man, it's that they were press man coverage so often in this game. Being aware of like, hey, I have to keep contained here. Okay, I'm the guy on the outside. I got to squeeze and force this thing back in. I'm the force player. I got to push this thing back in. And then also sometimes he gets his blocks. I just thought he was so focused on the receiver that he would be late to play the run, and that get us in some trouble when they started to attack our cornerbacks in the run game a little bit, screens, things like that. But what I did like with Terry on the flip side is he and Carlton both in this mix is that he tackled incredibly well. It wasn't like he wasn't tackling. It was just at times I thought he was late awareness-wise. But in terms of just tackling simply, he was doing a really good job. Didn't allow much leakage whatsoever. When he got his hands on you, he was throwing you down really at that spot. So both those guys were really good tackling. As soon as Rakestraw stepped in, he did exactly what you expect as a run defender. Got an assist on a tackle immediately as soon as he stepped in. But yeah, he tackled well. I just think that awareness, of like, hey, they might attack you in that spot has to be there. And he was just like so hyper focused, it felt like, on the receivers, which was understandable because he was working against guys like Cooper Kupp a lot, and there were good results and there were bad results. It's understandable why that was the case. This was the near interception by Brian Branch. And again, you talk about that post-snap movement, but a play like this, he kind of just sits. He kind of just sinks himself in. You're expecting he's not really going to be impactful in this play. It's almost like the Jared Goff interception, which we'll take a look at, where the coverage that they played, you wouldn't really expect this to matter, and then all of a sudden he kind of jumps it. And it's like, this is Brian Branch basically had the opportunity to do the exact same thing, because defensively, they go into what seemingly was another...
They seemingly jump back into quarters coverage on a play like this, but they're only bringing a three-man rush. So again, another little tweak here. You bring a three-man rush. You show on the play, maybe you're bringing five. You drop out Barnes, Hutchinson. So you got three guys underneath, but then when you go to quarters coverage, now all of a sudden Branch on that single side can just sit down, kind of park himself, and then wait, and he reads the quarterback's eyes and overlaps his zone into nearly having an interception. Very similar to the Goff interception.
Comes back to the dig route, and all of a sudden you got Brian Branch who's just kind of sitting there waiting, but he's aware of everything. He leaves his zone and nearly comes up with an interception.
What I would love about a look like this is it looks like cover three to me. And then at the snap, when Brian Branch rolls down, you're thinking maybe he's buzzing, maybe he's getting out into the sky roll into the flat, but it looks like cover three. But it's not. It's more quarters coverage. So you get the vertical shot taken away by Kirby, and then the cornerback can stick with the dig route. But it really just allows the freedom there for Brian Branch to stick on the sticks, and the flats taken away by Derek Barnes.
3rd down and 3. Here's your touchdown to Jameson Williams. And again, seemingly seemingly defensively, they rolled into some sort of cover 3 look, maybe their cover 3 match, which they were playing a lot in this game, and they bring a blitz on top of it, and you simply get Jameson Williams one-on-one at the bottom of your screen, and again, he runs a Jameson Williams route, runs the hitch and go, pass protection is on point in a play like this, and he just burns Tre'Davious White completely, right? As soon as Goff sees single eye safety, he immediately like, okay, I'm going to check right, I'm going to pull that safety gets out of the play, and immediately it's like, I'm going to you. And that's the great thing, because we had that with Chark, right? It's a little bit different with Josh, because Josh would run different routes, but we'd have it like on post routes when Goff would feel that, okay, I can move that safety, and I'm going to throw this post, because Josh Reynolds is going to get inside of this guy. He's going to get that leverage. And with Chark, it was the shot plays like this. Jamo just has his own version with the double moves, but it's kind of the same thing. Like, I got you on an island, that safety's not helping over top. This is what we talk about, especially on 3rd and 3, right? You're expecting it to play to the sticks, but he's taking off here, and he just does exactly, again, what you expect from Jameson Williams when he came out of the draft, runs by a guy, scores a touchdown, and it's pretty, because now this felt like a offensive play that you would see when the Lions are really in sync offensively here. It's even a tendency expectation, like, hey, they're probably going to go 3-match here because that's what they do a lot, and then you get the one-on-one, and you take advantage of that. And like I said with Glenn, the thing that I loved too was how much versatility there was in coverage. Like, he was very willing to get into a lot of different coverage looks, and in a play like this, I get the sense that this was simply understanding the tendency of what their offense was, getting them into plus territory. It's a first down, and all of a sudden, right, you're playing a lot of quarters coverage. They were playing a lot of cover 4. When they got in plus territory, when they were in first downs, we know what the Rams like to do, right? They'll do their play action shot plays, but they'll also run a lot of screens, and you'll get these bootleg plays. And that's one thing that we focused on in the preview videos, like, hey, I want to see them maybe like do this kind of coverage, just take this away one time and rock the guy. Well, I'm not going to say that they rocked the guy, but Terran Arnold made this a 0-yard gain on first down, which again was a win coming into this if you could do things like that. And he went to seemingly straight cover 2 coverage, which we don't do very often, right? Usually it's Tampa 2. We went straight seemingly cover 2 coverage here after playing a lot of quarters coverage and mixing that in. So all of a sudden you're expecting cornerbacks to take off. They don't. And if you look at Stafford on the play, he immediately throws the flat. Like, he's just expecting, like, yeah, the flat's going to be open. And it's not. Terrian just sitting there waiting on the play. And then again, he tackled well, so he shuts it down. 0-yard gain. And again, that's a win for the Lions. 4th down play, which they ended up converting. And I'm watching this back, and you can just see what it was. It was just a breakdown. Like things like this happen. It was, we have the safety matched up with the tight end pre-snap. All of a sudden, the motion across. Brian Branch takes the tight end. Now Kirby Joseph playing that free safety role, seemingly in a cover 1 look. But also, Derek Barnes rotates over. As soon as Derek Barnes rotates over, it ultimately turns into Brian Branch and Derek Barnes both cover the tight end on the play rather than actually covering and picking up the receiver. So they're just covering the same guy. The receiver's left wide open, and that's why the dig route happened. Lions were in straight man cover 1. He just sat himself down right in front of the safety, and Lions just simply broke down by the motion that happened pre-snap and a couple responsibilities shift at the staff. There's no communication between Branch and Barnes, so they both just ended up covering the same guy. I also liked about this was when the Lions were going, especially cover 1 rat, was utilization of Malcolm Rodriguez, right? We didn't talk a lot about Malcolm. He had the injury, and I love the fact that they utilized Malcolm in a really smart way. It wasn't like they were forcing him on the field. They utilized Malcolm as the rat linebacker, seemingly because of his short area quickness versus every other linebacker we have. Like, Jack can move, Alex can move, but those guys, Alex is going to handle a lot of the man coverage responsibilities, as we saw, right? You have Barnes, who's going to kind of pass rush and do a little bit of both. You don't know if he's coming or he's going to drop into coverage, but Malcolm was used as that rat linebacker. Like, he's going to play underneath, he's going to throw off the timing, he's going to disrupt these crossing routes, allow our guys where they want to set up all these rub routes like last year and have drags, and all of a sudden our cornerback had a race over top, and we're just getting 9 yards of separation. We didn't see that at all in this game. There wasn't one play where I was like, oh man, we just gave them separation because of what they did schematically. It's just an easy 9 yards. Like, no, the Lions pressed up. They played with really good depth between each cornerback. There really wasn't any pick plays or rub routes that were ever even really created in this game that gave us problems because we played with really smart depth. Our guys were really comfortable and pressed, so everybody kind of pressed up. And then also using Malcolm as kind of that rat linebacker to throw off timing and allow guys to recover was a really cool tweak. He's also a nice blitzer, but that was a really cool usage of Malcolm Rodriguez to just find a role for a guy with the right skill set to make that work. And again, the Lions were working around traffic really well, playing in a man coverage there. Then we had the jet sweep, and the big thing that I liked about this jet shutdown by Brian Branch was just the fact that, again, it just felt like Brian Branch was super aware of what was coming. Like, you felt this, you've seen this before, and then immediately, like, again, probably rolling at the snap back to another 3rd down play, and this was the 3rd and 6. Again, this was called a defensive pass interference. They put the ball at the 2. I don't really know how this is pass interference here, to be completely honest with you. He gets up on the receiver receiver. Lions seem to be playing two-man, trying to funnel everything in towards the inside, towards their inside safeties, but they utilize this motion. He gets on the fade route, so now Terran Arnold is kind of having to play through that because he's not on the outside leverage anymore, and they call a defensive flag, which I didn't understand at all. So, I'll just throw that one out there because that happened, and that set him up, which ultimately set him up for a touchdown the very next play. So I'm just saying, like, if that's not called, it's 4th and 6, they're probably taking a field goal. That's a 4-point swing there. That kind of stuff, it happens. It stinks. It stinks that it happened multiple times because I think that one in particular was a disaster of a call. You could say the same thing about the last one too, to be honest, but I thought this one was a disaster of a call. But at least the Lions, we're not talking about a loss because of things like this. We still found a way to win the game. That's how close the Lions were. Like, it wasn't like the Lions were getting gashed. They weren't giving up wide open first down touchdowns. It wasn't like last year where we were just conceding 8 yards. Like, we saw, like, in the chat, like, people were like, oh, hey, we're giving up the flats. Like, yes, but it was nothing like it was last year. And actually, a lot of times we took away the flats. There was some give and take there, right? There was a battle. They had some. We gave up some. Went on because of what they started doing with their motion to kind of get the sense of, like, okay, if we go motion, we can get the post-snap alignment, and then all of a sudden we can hit that with a little bit more safety than what we were with Brian Branch, where he's post-snap just kind of diving on these routes. We have to utilize the motion to get that tail out early. So they tweaked a little bit, but the Lions they came with a really nice plan to, like, we can try to jump those routes, maybe make a play on it, but then also, like, hey, we're going to take some away. We got some coverage variation here. We took away a chip flat, which didn't happen at all last time. Like, it was so much better than last game. We made them earn everything, and credit to them, they did. They did a lot of good, and they have an elite quarterback, so it makes sense. But we made them earn everything, and against most teams, that's what you want to do defensively, and that was what was incredible, especially when you tie along that you got a takeaway in there. Takeaways with the turnover on downs. Like this, right, just kind of settles down short of the first down. When I see a play like this, too, based on the coverage that they're running, it seems like LA Rams shifted it up a little bit, too, and this happens, right? We talked about us doing it the advantage. They seemingly went into almost like a pure cover 2 look here. I don't think the Lions, play for this was exactly to beat this, and defensively, you could see that they were kind of just settled in on, we're going to sit here with Sam Laporta. Then at the top of the screen, you also notice where Goff doesn't go. The cornerback kind of carry the vertical route because there's no underneath threat, which makes you believe the Lions didn't expect to see a straight cover 2 look here, which makes sense on a 3rd down and 5. That's not what the Rams typically do. They went straight cover 2. Lions seemingly were a little bit thrown off by it. And on the top of the screen, I point out that because later in the game, the near interception was similar, where the Lions, the look that they had, Goff tried to hit kind of that breadbasket shot between corner and safety, and you watch him carry it on the play. Very similarly, he had no threat. Cornerback played it well and carried it, and that's why that happened rather than they're actually leaving that big gap. And that's just being very aware of, like, hey, there's no one underneath. We can do this. You have kind of those back and forth. This was one where Sam Laporta didn't get to the first down marker, and with the pressure, Goff kind of stepped up and gave it to him, but he was just a yard short on the play. So little things like that can be tweaked for sure. Sometimes you get that balance where, hey, two teams are throwing wrinkles, man. They're smart, right? These two teams are being creative back and forth, and, there's wins, there's losses. But in a play like this, you could have better details to make sure we get far enough. It's a huge play they created. Again, one of their huge plays was literally a drag. And I'm not going to sit there and be fired up about, like, oh, Lions, what are you doing? I understood it. This was like the 4th time they ran this. They ran a drag on the play. Lions, again, did a good job early to not allow an early. If you go under, it doesn't make any sense for a pursuit angle. And he just slams on the brakes and takes off. The issue would have been Amik Robertson, kind of his poor angle to the football once he got a field, and then it led to a massive play. But if that's one of your massive plays, I can live with that. Was that one? It was the Cooper Kupp corner route, which was a pretty route, too, in the zone coverage. But that was your big plays, man. These were earned. And that one's unfortunate because of, like, hey, bro, it's a 2-yard pass. But it was also very understandable how that can happen. Very smart instinctual play there by the receiver. But I don't have an issue with that as a fan. The other defensive pass interference, which was called on Terran Arnold, which I think had a lot more validity to it, especially if they would have called it at the top of the route, which they didn't, which drove me nuts, because the Lions were going cover 1, and the Rams beater for that last year was, hey, we're going to run basically a corner route because we want to press it to the safety help, and then we're going to break back outside. Maybe he's trying to pass it off. We're going to break it back outside. We're going to get outside this cornerback. It's going to be hard for him to transition, and now there's no help, and we can clear open, and we can open up that spot of the field. Lions do things like that. They've done things like that before. The issue became here is that they called a flag, but he basically threw the flag at the catch point, which to me is not where the flag seemingly occurred, and he ended up getting a pass breakup Terran. And again, I'll live with that as a fan because the ball skills were there. He showed up, but I would have, if anything, called defensive holding because of the transition point, showcasing one of the ways that they were able to kind of get downfield. But the Lions ultimately ended up getting a stop here because you had the holding call, which was set up by stuffing the run. Then you were ultimately able to get off the field because of a couple great plays. First off, a run here, 3-yard run. I love watching Aiden Hutchinson like this on the backside, the way that he was really handling their tight ends a lot of this game, not all game, but a lot of this game, because last year I didn't feel like that was the case. This year it felt like it was a lot better. And then also on this 3rd and goal play, again, it was the movement at the snap because of what the Lions show, and then ultimately they go into what basically just looks like straight cover 0 here. But they're passing it off based on where everybody's aligned in coverage, like inside, outside. That's what they do at the snap. So Barnes is playing inside, but he's playing underneath. You have Kirby playing the inside, and you can see the communication. The guy that Stafford could have went at would have been Terran Arnold, because he took the route and he didn't have leverage, and that would have been the pass to make. But you bring zero coverage, the ball's going to get out fast. So now it's just about communicating the back end. So you show one look, you bring something at cover, you're showing this two-man look over and over. Then all of a sudden at the snap, you bring this blitz. He's just got to loft it into the end zone, and then you pass it off. Terran communicates. At least he said, like, I'm taking this guy. So Kirby's like, cool, you got that. I'm going to step inside. Barnes pass it off. I'm going to step inside. And then all of a sudden, Brian Branch plays towards the outside, and he drops back with the fade route, and he stands in the way. It's an incomplete pass. Beautiful communication on the fly between these cornerbacks for young guys, between Terran Arnold, between Kirby Joseph, and between Brian Branch. That was just beautiful to adapt to that. And then, again, trusting your guys in the back end, but also Aaron Glenn getting in his bag, man, just finding a way to throw something off. You saw this look, now it's not that. You thought it was that, but it's not that. You're not going to have the time you think you do, and we're going to speed up your process. And we forced an incomplete pass. Offensive side of the ball, I know this drive through the interception, but we also had this beautiful scoot scramble, and I just feel like I'd be crazy to not put that in here. We've been waiting for this moment. Jared Goff, I wish this would have ended the touchdown. We've been waiting for this moment, though. A 3rd and 6, one of Goff's best scrambles as a line. Not his best. I think Denver's was best. He got out of the sack and took off. But this was absolutely beautiful, and also shot to Sam Laporta's awareness, right, when Goff started to take off to like, ooh, I'm going to chip this guy, and when he did, it allowed kind of Goff to turn the corner, and he fell forward, picked the first. It was beautiful. He didn't slide. He's like, I'm getting forward here. It was beautiful. Shot to Goff for that one. Now, unfortunately, the drive ended in an interception, but we'll get to that, because before that we had the Jameson Williams play, which was the drag. Want to give him credit to Frank right now here, this freaky awareness. He's done this before. You get the play fake. One adjustment the Rams did, blitzed our play action sets. They're like, you're not going to be comfortable there. You want to run play action early downs, first down, second down, cool, we're going to blitz it. We're going to make that ball get out in a hurry. And they had success. And towards the end, it almost cost us, because before we got that last drive, we had a play to Jameson Williams, which we didn't have time because they blitzed us off the backside. Goff couldn't really get it off, and it was incomplete. Here they did the same thing. They brought the blitz, but Frank Ragnall's awareness with the play didn't have an assignment, so he flipped himself back around, got enough of the rusher, allowed the ball to get off to Jameson, and then Jameson took off on the play. Get the blitz out of it, so you're losing that underneath defender, and you basically throw it right where the vacancy is, which worked out perfectly for the Lions, but shout to Frank Ragnow for kind of feeling that and picking that up on the play. And then it's the interception, which, again, I'm not incredibly mad at, because based on the coverage that they were playing, it was kind of understandable why Goff would have thought that this would have been there, right? Seemingly went into kind of this cover 6 look defensively, and when you have that quarters on the backside, you're not expecting the safety to leave. Like, on paper, he wouldn't have gotten there, but he overlapped his own coverage, took off across the field, and you can see the setup, right? Goff had a little fake, and the linebackers shifted with it. So as soon as they did that, the window was second level, not a St. Brown to throw the dig. You could have said it was late. I don't think it was super late, though. Usually, we don't throw that much earlier, because we're not usually putting it on them at the break point. But there was still going to be a tight window there, just because the coverage that they were in, it wasn't like you had the lane to run across. So Goff had to be aware that it was a much tighter window than usual because of the 2 deep safeties. That being said, though, it was really like both guys had their hands on at the catch point. I understood the read. Didn't think it was super late. Definitely could have been earlier, though. And then you get the unfortunate interception, which was really just a great play by the safety for being aware in a situation like that to go make a play on the football. Defense. And they gave up this touchdown drive, gave the lead, but then they responded for us. And, you give up that touchdown drive, which one of the plays that I loved was Terran Arnold in cover 4 coverage, his transition speed here to make this 0 yards. Again, they're trying to get these easy yards on the flat. He flips, drives on it, makes a great play on the football. At this play, again, the ups and downs of Terrion. This is one where they got him really quickly off the line of scrimmage, turned into kind of this like short in route, and all of a sudden he was immediately beat on the play, gave up this in route. Stafford got out of the pocket, and his guy was still open on the play. Davenport had a nice swim win on the play, should have had a sack, but he didn't because the pump fake. Stafford gets out of the pocket, makes an elite quarterback type of play, and then you give it the touchdown, which was the one touchdown in the red zone that they had, which is Carlton Davis kind of slipping. He's following the motion, he trips at the snap, and all of a sudden you have an open receiver. Again, things like that just happen, unfortunately, but they are not going to happen consistently because we did a lot of things right. But then offensively, we go out there, we kind of stub our toe, which was, the pressure that they had on the play action fake, and then on 3rd and 5, the pressure where he tried to hit the honey hole shot. The cornerback did a good job carrying it. We dropped the interception, and defensively, man, they made such a clutch stand. And shout out to Stafford because he almost sealed it on his own with some ridiculous passes. First off, it was this cover 1 blitz look, which again, Carlton Davis, looked like a number one cornerback. He played as a number one cornerback in this game, and this would have been a great example. Cover one blitz, you're one-on-one here. You cover up this dig route, you contest it, it's incomplete. 3rd and 5, Stafford made a throw of the year to find a deep crossing route where Kirby Joseph picked it up. Meek gave up way too much space. Kirby tried to dive down on it, and somehow he got it out there, working back to the ball, which worked perfectly for the receiver and for our safety because of where he was. They pick up the first down, but ultimately you get a stop on that possession because on 3rd down and 10, you do what you need to here, and it's Cooper Kupp. They go at the rookie, and wasn't the greatest coverage, but it was enough, and it was incomplete. It was a missed pass, and you got a 3rd down and 10, which was set up by the Lions shutting down the run on 1st down. Then obviously you get the false start, and Malcolm Rodriguez chases it down towards the outside, so with the 3rd down and 10, Hutchinson and Davenport come through, your new acquisition, and as soon as they did that, they knew what time it was. They knew what time it was because the Lions, about all this creativity and all these things that they did well, overtime was kind of none of that, right? You came out with an end around, which was nice. You had a little swing pass, which was smart against their coverage. But outside of that, it was bully ball. It was like, you're not going to stop us. You're just going to have to deal with this. And that was the Lions leaning on who they are, who their foundation is, who they've been, which is their offense line. Campbell said it now for years. They leaned on it again, and they took them home, right? And it was awesome to see kind of the flexibility within the Lions scheme on that last drive. But they had to get there. Their pass plays of the game to hit Sam Laporta. Obviously got the flag after that. Went to the running back screen, which was nice for Jahmyr Gibbs, was helped set us up. And then this play that I loved, right? This pin pull look again, getting to the edge. The quick hitters here to Jahmyr Gibbs. Love the Laporta. It's a great block on this play to help pick up the 1st down.
You also notice the motion on the play. They are a little bit late to adjust, and the linebacker trying to fill here allows Sewell to kind of wrap himself around. And then at that point, again, it's just about the one crucial block that you have in front.
I think we had the brain fart here with Jameson Williams, and again, it was a smart play offensively because of what they were doing coverage-wise.
The Lions do a great job on this play just shifting attention. So first off, they do a short motion with Jahmyr Gibbs. And now the defense is going to shift in zone coverage. They're showing a quarters look here underneath. So you have the 3 underneath defenders, and they're going to overload one side of the field with the Jahmyr Gibbs pre-snap motion. So Lake's going to take Jahmyr Gibbs to the flat, and Goff's eyes are immediately going to go there. Then for the play side linebacker, which is where Jameson's going to end up, his eyes are going to Amon-Ra St. Brown, is going to push vertical and then sit what looks like kind of that over ball route. But then he's got to get the communication from the opposite linebacker, whose attention is focused on Sam Laporta because he's in line right next to Jameson Williams, that, hey, Jameson is driving your direction. So he's going to push vertical first. You're going to get a slight delay, and then immediately he's going to take off for Jameson Williams. And by the time he's going with that straight line speed, the communication to pass off between those two linebackers is way too slow to have any chance to pick this up. It is a beautiful play design by Ben Johnson here.
Oh, he needed to get upfield. He didn't. He tried to get out of bounds for some reason, and that was a brain fart. Ultimately, we ended up having to kick a field goal. Next play, again, in cover 3, we give up some pressure. We have to come back to number 3. Kylie Raymond slips and falls out of his route, so Goff can't throw that pass. So he comes back, feels the pressure from Decker, and then just kind of checks it down and it's incomplete. But then in overtime, again, it was bully ball. And there was a couple plays that I did want to give some attention to here. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson had his sack. Carlton Davis nearly came with an interception. Lions going to 3 deep, kind of prevent defense. Beautiful there. I love again, Carlton Davis just finding his way to be around the football. And again, it's hurried up. Like this, you nearly won the game in regulation because of pressure by Aiden Hutchinson. And then he came back and got the sack. Like you nearly run in regulation because of the pressure he forced. And then Barnes almost got a forced fumble on that sack play because he came by and swiped at Stafford's hands and he starts juggling it. He has to go down. But then offensively, it was really one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen. And it was also absolutely beautiful, right? You go right back to that lead outside zone, and it starts off with Frank Ragnow leading the way. The movement at the point of attack there, you get behind Penei Sewell. It's just dominant. That's who you ran the ball in to score a touchdown and more yards. But then the play that I love is then they go into this strong double team duo play, and now you show off the flexibility. Like, hey, we don't have to just run outside zone. We show off the athleticism. Graham Glasgow, you see Taylor Decker on the backside, right, with the reach block. We show the athleticism, but now we're going to show you the power, and we're going to double team Zeitler where he's probably more comfortable with. Penei Sewell is going to drive guys, and they just drive people off the line of scrimmage. They move people back, and all of a sudden now you're knocking on the door at the 1 yard line, and then you cap it off by let's go behind Penei Sewell again and just walk this thing into the end zone. Like, it was so cool to see the flexibility and versatility on that drive, but also just the determination. Like, bro, you're not going to stop us. We're just going to walk you back. Not going to be crazy. We're going to walk you back. You can't stop us. You're just not built to do that. It just is what it is. You're not built to do that, and we are. All the other little tweaks that go into it, it was pretty darn simple at the end. You can't stop us running the football. This was the perfect way to win a football game, following the way that last season ended with San Fran, where things just kind of spiraled out of control, and no one could seemingly kind of take us out of that rut, right? Everybody was making mistakes. It was contagious against San Fran. And in a game like this, where we had some mental breakdowns kind of scattered in there, the defense stood up and made the plays. They were so darn determined, man. It was awesome. Like, you give that first down, they didn't put their heads down. They're like, very next play, stuff the run. Easily could have been 5-yard run. Oh, we're in trouble. It's over. Nope, stuff the run, tackle for loss. Then because of that, you're rewarded. You get an offensive penalty. Then all of a sudden, 3rd and 10, Stafford, he's spending money all game. He's making ridiculous throws, and you just stick with it. Keep getting pressure. Keep getting after him. Maybe one time you'll affect the passer enough, and he'll miss a pass, and he freaking misses the pass. You just stuck with it, man. And offensively, kind of the same thing, man. Just determined to just find a way, regardless of what it looks like. Keep tweaking things. Keep taking a look at what they're doing defensively. Let's find a matchup that we like. And they found it, right? They tried to go to St. Brown. It wasn't there. You had to find another way. And they found another way. They said, you know what? It's not St. Brown today. We're not constantly just winning 1-on-1. We got to get away from that. And that's okay. That is perfectly fine. They're built on pass rushers. We know that we don't want to lean into that game, so we'll simplify. We'll run the football. And even though we had some ups and some down from the ball earlier, we're going to go at it again. And we're just going to simply beat you at the point of attack. We're going to wear you down because you're tired. You've seen the field now twice without much of a break, and the Lions took advantage of that. Lions were the more determined team to make sure that that happened at the end. And that offensive line, which is Taylor Decker, we had the great, line inside the den special, talking about his relationships with Frank, and now Zeitler in the mix, and Zeitler just, followed right in. He fit right in for us. Graham Glasgow, all of these guys, Penei Sewell, that have been here from the bottom, kind of help lift this thing out from underneath, put us to where we are right now and bring us back to life, bring this team to life, the city to life. They were the guys that the Lions ended up just saying, we're just going to go behind you guys. We're going to go behind you. You're going to take us there. Just lead us to victory, man, because they're tired and you have an advantage here. Just take us home. It doesn't have to be pretty. We just need a win. And that's what they did. That's what they did, and it was absolutely beautiful. So I'm pumped. This was an incredible win. We'll go through the All-22, but for now, a lot of takeaways there, a lot of things to be excited about, a lot of the new additions I'm excited about. Loved it from Aaron Glenn. Ben Johnson, again, had to just keep searching to find ways. This game went exactly how I expected it to go. It was 60 minutes. Hopefully you check out next previews video if you didn't check out this week's. With that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Prep, for watching, and I'm out.